Let's get a quick take on the jurors in the Aurora movie theater trial, deliberating the penalty phase of the case as we speak. A woman's outburst during the prosecution's closing statement merited a 3-week sentence for contempt of court from Judge Carlos Samor. Patty Cahoon from Westward, it seems that this was one of the major headlines from the last bit of going into the penalty phase. I didn't expect it, but no one expected that kind of an outburst. But do you think it'll have a lasting effect for appeals and juries and things like that?
I don't think it'll affect this ultimate decision, and I think the jurors will take a little longer to come back with a decision. It's going to be harder than just finding him guilty the first time. The whole idea of a death sentence is going to be very tough, even though all these jurors were vetted for a possible death decision. I think the outburst in the courtroom is just the start of what we're going to see inside and outside the courtroom, no matter what people decide. They're going to think justice isn't done. If they go for the death penalty, it is going to be an endless discussion, not just today and tomorrow, but for the next 20 years in Colorado, because that's about how long it takes to execute someone.
Amy Oliver Cook, Executive Vice President of Grand Poobah at the Independence Institute. Don't tell John I said that. There's the Grand Poobah part.
Of course
the Executive Vice President. Yeah, that's true. He knows it. Who are we fooling here? We know he knows the situation. He'd probably describe the same way. Were you surprised at how quickly we got to the deliberation phase? I mean, we've been warned, I guess, before the whole trial started, it was going to take months. It'd take months, and it certainly could have. But this seems to have gone according to the textbook and pretty efficient. What do you think?
Yeah, and I would agree with that. And I think what we're going to see is a longer time, certainly deliberating over the penalty phase. I don't envy those jurors having to make that decision, even though, as Patty says, they have been vetted. That is a very, very heavy lift. I will say this, I do hope that based on just what has happened in this case and also with the outburst we saw yesterday, I really hope that what we do have deliberately in Colorado is a conversation over mental health. We have services are inadequate, and I hope that is a conversation that is long and thoughtful in the state.
Penfield Tate, our esteemed lawyer at the table, attorney from Greenberg-Traurig, also a longtime state lawmaker. Were you surprised at the length of the penalty phase, at least not the jury deliberation, obviously we don't know what that's going to be like, but how fast they received the case? And what do you think the effect of that outburst will be? Is that something that appeals in the future will be based on?
I don't think the outbursts will have much effect at all. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if jurors thought it was an annoyance that they'd rather not have and sort of an intrusion into their province to make the determination. As we talked about this before, I wasn't surprised at how quickly they came back with a guilty verdict. I thought from the beginning that not guilty by reason of insanity was a life preserver thrown out there because it was the only defense they had. He did it, and we all knew it. But this is the hardest part. Even though this jury's been death penalty qualified, I think that it's difficult for people to look someone in the eye and say, we sentence you to death, no matter how heinous the crime. So I expect the jury to spend a lot of time with this, and I think Patty's right. No matter which way this comes down, it's going to generate a debate. And I'll go a step further. If this jury does impose the death penalty, I think we'll see legislation next session by the General Assembly to address this question again.
Kara DeGette, editor of the Greater Park Hill News. I like that point that Penn made that we'll probably see some legislation one or the other about addressing the death penalty. Even though we see polls that the Coloradans are still in favor of it, there's a lot of conversation about there, and especially in the mental health aspect of this particular case. Your thoughts?
Well, I think that increasingly people are opposed to the death penalty, and yes, this case has been horrific from the time he walked into, the time before he even walked into the movie theater, stockpiling the weapons, being able to buy weapons, the onset of schizophrenia, and all of the horrific deaths and injuries that occurred that night. And so yes, I think that the jury is going to have a terrible time grappling with the morality and reality of whether or not to impose a death sentence to this clearly schizophrenic criminal. And so I would hope that there would be some legislation and have this conversation started for how exactly we can deal with this.